This is my video for my American Standard Division run at InRange TV's Woodland Brutality 2025. American Standard Division requires a 1.5x optic or less on your rifle with 30-round magazines and no supporting devices such as bipods. Your handgun must be iron sights only, no porting or compensation with 17-round magazines or less. Given these equipment limitations, American Standard is the most difficult modern division to compete in, while simultaneously having the lowest barrier to entry equipment-wise. From the first position, I'm engaging a steel target at 400 yards. Intermediate calibers like 5.56 require 2 hits on each target on this stage. Note how I'm pulling the handguard of my rifle down into the barrel to minimize muzzle climb. Back to start, and the same engagements repeat. This run is actually easier than my trooper run, despite not having magnification, because the lighting conditions are much better. It was raining when we shot the stage during the staff match. So while my times work out to be pretty close to each other, this run feels like it's less effort because I can more clearly see the targets. Jen's a very enthusiastic RO, so I don't need to narrate as much here. The handgun I'm using is my Glock 34 Gen 5 with Timney trigger and solid black Dawson precision sights. With 17-round magazines, I'm going to reload anytime I can between positions. I'm first in American Standard Division on this stage. The audio didn't record on this stage for some reason, so I apologize if it's less interesting as a result. The stage begins engaging a rifle target at 200 yards with 2 hits. With the rifle target neutralized, I clear the rifle. I have to take it with me after dry firing it downrange. I'm not going to sling it until I go through the pipe, because if I sling on my back first, it's invariably going to get stuck on the pipe going through it. Because the rifle's been cleared visibly for the RO, it is a stick until I load it again. The 180 does not apply. This portion of the stage requires hitting the activator, then hitting one of the Y-swinger plates, then shooting a popper, knocking down the other Y-swinger plate, then transitioning to popper and Texas Star back and forth. It's important to make sure the plate is fully down and neutralized before you move on to the next target. Limited magazine capacity here means I'm going to do a standing reload. This is, of course, much more challenging than my trooper run, where I was using a pistol caliber carbine with a red dot for the entire stage. Whenever I'm shooting iron sights on pistol, I have to force myself to slow down, and you can see I get into more of a groove as the stage goes on. I tend to want to shoot at red dot speeds all the time, but you just can't be that sloppy with your sight picture with an iron sight pistol. Note, I keep my pistol up, oriented towards the target as I'm advancing forward. Retreating, pistol is kept down range. Snap out, get the 2 hits on the plate. Snap out, get the 2 hits on the plate. Here, I have to drop the mag and shoot the last shot out for a clearing shot. If you miss that, that is a penalty. Unsling the rifle, and now I need to get hits from the designated positions here. I have to use 2 of the steps, 2 squares, 1 of the slant ports, and 1 of the ports on the bottom. And again, I have to get 2 hits each from each one of these positions. The rifle I'm using for this run is my KP15 side folder with FM Products bufferless upper and lead and steel Pandora red dot. I discussed this rifle in detail in a previous video. Note, from this bottom position, I lie down on my strong side shoulder and use the edge of the barricade to support the rifle. I am first in American Standard Division on this stage. Stage begins using the shotgun to engage 2 static steel targets representing drones, ground the shotgun, draw a pistol, chamber around, engage a static plate out at about 30 yards. 3 hits are required on the statics on the stage. Transitioning to the left, there are a number of knockdown targets I have to neutralize. Reload on the move to the next position. All of the spinners on the stage are going to require 2 hits, top, bottom, and then they can be rotated for an optional -30-second bonus. Unlike my PCC run, using an iron sight pistol with limited capacity, I'm going to focus on rotating one spinner than the other rather than alternating back and forth to make more efficient use of the time. Both spinners are over, moving to the next position, and another spinner. Have to hit top, bottom, top, bottom. This position's a bit easier with handgun than it was with the PCC because I don't have to turn the gun sideways to engage the target. I did start this stage with 8 17-round magazines on me so that I wouldn't run empty going after rotating the spinner bonuses. Going for the third spinner bonus from this position because I have a straight-on shot at it. One of the reasons we force the top, bottom engagements on the spinners is if a shooter does that, they're about half to 2/3 of the way to actually rotating the spinner. Still have to engage top, bottom on the spinner from this position here. More complicated because the spinner is already rotating. Reloading on the move. From this position here, I have another static steel I have to get 3 hits on. And from the final position here, I have 3 knockdown targets. With all 3 bonuses, I am first in American Standard Division on this stage. This stage gave the shooter the option of carrying an 80-pound tube or crawling under tripwires. I'm going to carry the 80-pound tube. From each shooting position, the shooter must kneel. You might note, if you've watched my Trooper Division video, the weather conditions are much better during this run. I can more easily see the target. And I also don't have to carry my rucksack and everything else for Trooper Division in American Standard. So this is going much faster. Target is much more clearly visible during this run versus when it was overcast. Dealing with different weather conditions on different stages is just something you have to get used to as a competitor. It is impossible to run these matches in a laboratory environment where everyone has the exact same conditions. You may have seen our match slogan of "We considered fair and decided against it." Not attempting to normalize the stages for different weather or lighting conditions is one of the things we're talking about. While we do want to maintain competitive equity to the best of our ability, trying to adjust stages so that they're the same experience for everyone across the day and different weather conditions would invariably result in not running the kind of stages we want to run at all. The stage is also a good example, comparing it to my Trooper run, of how sometimes the less advanced equipment divisions at our matches have an advantage over the more advanced ones. We design our divisions so there's always a trade-off for using more advanced equipment, usually meaning that you have to wear more gear, such as armor, helmets, or carry everything as in Trooper Division. I'm second in American Standard Division on the stage, and the fastest carrying the heavy tube. From talking to the range officers that ran the stage, the fastest times were all people who crawled under the tripwires, regardless of division. Carrying the heavy tube was slower, but I think for me it was the faster option. This long-range stage was the most stressful one for me out of the entire match. As I was waiting to shoot, I saw the targets disappear into the shadows as the sun changed position, and being able to even see the targets here was a challenge. What I'm actually doing from most of these shooting positions is using terrain references of roughly where I think the target is and listening to the calls of the spotters as to where my impacts are in relation to the target and adjusting. On this stage, the shooter has to engage the 200-yard target, the single hit, the 300-yard target, go back to the 200-yard target, go out to a 350-yard target, then back to the 200-yard target, and there is a bonus target downrange at about 450 or 500 yards, if I remember correctly. Each hit on that is worth minus 15 seconds. I did not opt to pursue engaging that because I did not see it easily in the shadows all the way down there. I'm physically feeling better during this run. My legs have recovered from the strain of my Trooper run, so I'm not shaking in these positions, but my eye is going into overdrive trying to focus and see the targets I need to engage. What makes this stage stressful is the fact I know I've been doing pretty good to this point on the other stages, and if I time out on the stage, leaving any targets, those are worth plus 60 seconds. So for me, the match is going to be won or lost on this stage. I really need to get through it and make sure I get all the hits. If I don't, my match is effectively going to be over. This is the sort of distraction you don't want to have mentally while you're shooting a stage, so I try to refocus on just seeing the targets, listening to the calls, and making the hits, and not think about the overarching picture of the match. Got to win the battle before you can win the war.
You were right, low right. That was low right.
When I've missed too many times in a row, you'll see me break away from the gun to get my eye on the target so I can get a better sight picture coming back onto target. The tint of optical lenses can change how things look when you're looking through the optic versus just looking through your eyeglasses.
Hit 200. Hit 350.
You can see that target's starting to peek back out of the shadows again. Sometimes you can see the target stick or the stick with the flashers on it more easily. You'll see there's a orange cone on the ground next to it. We do that to help iron sight shooters and shooters with no magnification identify the general target area. If you were shooting the stage in a historic division, you just simply shot the targets in order of distance. You didn't have to go back and forth. Last hard target of the stage, so of course I'm going to be burning some rounds trying to make it happen. And then when I finally hit it, I got to come back to the 200-yard target, and I'm done with the stage. I think my groupings are starting to open up as well because I'm about 3 magazines in, and the rifle is pretty darn hot at this point. I am 7th in American Standard Division on this stage, cleaning the stage with no penalties. You can see there was very few of us who were able to complete the stage in this division. The stage begins with all firearms and ammunition staged on the table. The rifle targets at 100 yards require 2 hits each with intermediate calibers, and the handgun targets require 3 hits each at 30 yards. Looks like my second shot here skims off the edge of the target. The RO does call it neutralized. The pistol target's neutralized, ground the pistol, run over, grab an ammo can. Whenever the shooter's moving an ammo can, they're engaging pistol targets. Whenever they're moving tires, they're engaging rifle targets. Note how I set the ammo can down on the seat next to me so I can easily grab it, picking it up when I move again. I saw a lot of people do really crazy stuff on this stage, like slamming the can down on the ground, throwing the ammo can, throwing the tires. All of that movement is inefficient. Efficiency is faster in general on stages like this, and exerting your arms and yourself by throwing and exaggerated movements is actually going to affect your shooting ability further into the stage. A saying I learned years ago from another instructor, and I like to use when I'm teaching people how to compete, is faster is work, efficiency is free. It's interesting watching this run compared to my trooper run because the handgun is, of course, a bit slower than using a red dot PCC on the pistol targets. Using the rifle on the 100-yard targets is faster with less misses. I'm not having to hold over the same way on those further targets, and there's, of course, better accuracy with a real rifle than a PCC. All right, this is going to be the last iteration with pistol before finishing in the middle. Of course, I have one more iteration with rifle after this. When you see me missing, it's not so much that I'm actually winded during this stage. It's more that I'm rushing the shots and I need to let the sight settle just a little bit more before I send the shot. That's all the objects moved, so back to center for one final engagement with both guns. Reload before I start with the pistol so I don't shoot empty. And here I'm just rushing the shots. Mental processing to treat all of the stage the same way is something I need to work on. I've noticed that I tend to miss more at the end of stages than towards the beginning or middle of them. I am second in American Standard Division on the stage, and you can see from the results this is another one where only 6 of us finished it. Shooter starts prone on the wobbly platform. On target, there are 3 targets at the 100-yard berm that require 2 hits each. Ground the rifle on safe, get off the platform, go to the VTAC barricade, and there's a target at about 200 yards up the hill that I have to hit from this position. Clear the rifle, dry fire down range, and ground it. Move down range to the pistol barricades. See the arrows on the barricade? I have to hit each of the 2 static pistol targets with 1 hit each from each of those positions. Reload on the move. Same 4 positions from this barricade. Final position here, once I've neutralized both targets, drop the mag, rack it empty, dry fire, then holster. Knock the tube over, and then I have to drag the weighted dummy back to the start position. Grab the rifle, reload it, have to hit the 200-yard target again. Then it's onto the wobbly platform and re-engaging the same 3 steel targets again. Of course, getting back on the platform, it moves around quite a bit more than when the stage started. Trying to send the shots as the dot dances across the target. Of course, I get a little bit more stable the longer I'm on the platform, but every shot fired makes it move again. And that is the end of my American Standard Division run. I'm first in American Standard Division on this stage. In the end, I'm first out of 17 shooters in American Standard Division. Overall, I'm 7th out of 181 shooters who completed the match. And for those of you who didn't see my previous video wondering how an iron sight shooter won overall, he is no doubt a skilled shooter, but iron sight's division is a historic division with reduced hit requirements at this event. Looking at my own results versus myself is an interesting comparison. Stage 1, because of the environmental changes, magnified and trooper versus no magnification American Standard, times were almost identical, just a half a second apart. Stage 2 favored using the PCC and trooper division, although not by as much as I would have expected. Stage 3 also favored using the PCC and trooper division with a wider gap between the two. Stage 4 favored American Standard Division with better weather and not having to haul all the gear through the stage. Stage 5 favored Trooper with magnification by about 25% versus no magnification in American Standard. Stage 6, a slight advantage to using the PCC for everything versus using a rifle and pistol. And Stage 7, an almost insignificant difference between the 2 runs. If anything, I was slower with my pistol on the American Standard run, but more well-rested at this point of the match. In the end, a total difference of 73.68 seconds in favor of Trooper. That works out to 8.6% faster in Trooper Division than American Standard for me. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of in-depth action competition shooting analysis, please come back for more. There are more Brutality match videos in my queue for me to edit. I hope to see many of you at Brutality matches in the future, and hopefully this video series makes these events more accessible for you to understand what to expect and prepare for attending them. Knowledge not shared is ignorance, and always remember the Second Amendment is for everyone.